Episode 12, My Board. There's something about growing up in the Midwest. We have this belief that we are self-reliant, and that's important. It's part of our identity. While at the same time, we take for granted the fact that our neighbors stop to help us shovel our cars out of snowdrifts, feed and milk our animals on the rare instance we're out of town, or loan us a piece of farm equipment. But mostly, we tell the story of how independent we are. And a lot of us find it difficult to ask for help or even pay for help because why would we do that when we could just do it ourselves? The first time I realized this mindset was instilled in me was during a therapy session with Dr. Versteeg. I don't remember why I was seeing him, but I know I was feeling overwhelmed and that it had to do with a photo shoot that I was doing. My first. Well, the first one where I was the subject. There was a lot about that photo shoot that made me uncomfortable. I'm a woman after all, and if TikTok comments are any indication, I'm going to be judged on everything from my clothing choices to my hairstyle to my weight. My overwhelm also came from being overworked. I was the managing editor of 2 different publications with 2 different publishers, the mom of 2 teenagers, and the CEO, CMO, and CFO of our household. My husband was still working nights at the time, which was one more thing. Understanding my type A personality, my therapist asked if I could afford to have the house cleaned. I don't know why I didn't think of this myself, to be honest, and I could afford it. I remember it was only $75 each week at that time to have the entire house cleaned every other week. Perfect. One less thing to think about. That issue solved, we talked about having groceries delivered. Sign me up. As we solved one issue after the next, I remembered that I knew a stylist who might be able to help me with what I could wear for this photo shoot. I called Amanda Needham. She said she'd be happy to help. She asked me to bring some wardrobe options to a warehouse where she was currently working. She hung the clothes on a rack and immediately chose an outfit, but had me try on the other items just in case. Of course, I ended up wearing her initial pics because she's an Emmy Award-winning stylist. She's a professional. I would have overthought everything, but she knew instinctively what would look good on me, what would look good on camera. And she was right. I still have that outfit. Years later, when I was taking Susan Clark's second series of classes, she challenged us to create a personal board, taking into consideration what kinds of expertise we needed and what each person brought to the table. The people on my board have changed over the years, some of them rotating in and out, others just dropping off. The way I've organized my board has changed from how I initially designed it as well. For example, these days I have what I call my right-hand board members. Right now there are 4 women. Then I have second-tier board members. There are 6 of them. Then I've added what I call supporters, like my masseuse, my financial advisor, my stylist. They all provide services which sometimes I take for granted, but they support me nonetheless. I also keep a list of thought leaders and even former board members because who knows, maybe they'll rotate back up to the top. By the way, it's okay when folks drop off. It used to bother me, but now I think of it like Michelle Obama talks about it when she talks about her kitchen table, as she refers to her board. She talks about how some folks couldn't make the climb. Looking at my current board, I see that I need to revise it because I can see at least one person who needs to go. The point is that we all know people who can support us, and they want to support us. Some may be generalists, or, like Amanda, maybe a specialist. Or it may be just somebody who sees you, who gets you. That's kind of rare, right? Each one of us knows people. So start a list. You can either start with people that you know, or maybe like I did, start looking at what you need. because you may not have a person that you know in place, but you may want to go looking for that person to fill that gap. Thank you for joining me this week. Let me know if you'd like to hear more about my board. Next week, I'm chatting with one of my board members who was the catalyst for me to start this podcast. She's my business and spiritual mentor, Renee Spears. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with a friend. I'll see you next week.